Howdy, I'm Jeep and Jason, and today's video is going to be the very first oil change on the Jeep since installing. Been doing a big tune-up and installing the Dorman oil filter housing and oil cooler. Did it twice in one weekend. It was kind of a debacle. It was not very fun. It's been a year since and about 4,000 miles. I know that's not a lot for a year on this Jeep, and that's because I've had the Range Rover. I've been hammering that to work as a commuter, and the truck, I've been putting a lot of miles on the truck. So the Jeep has just been off-road a few times and then just some general city use. Last week I went on a day trip with a friend up to the Panamint Mountains, the Briggs Camp, just outside of Death Valley, and had a really wonderful day out on the trail. Matter of fact, it's still got all the fresh, yep, that's Panamint Mountain, Death Valley dirt. So it's still dirty from that trip. But what we're gonna do today before the oil change is we're gonna take our borescope here. This is the little borescope camera that I got from Viver last year. And this is the thing that I use to actually diagnose the oil filter housing leak to begin with. And this tool has been really handy, a really handy tool. Now, I went to the website this morning and this thing is sold out right now. I'm gonna recommend that you get a borescope. This has been a handy tool. I've used it since on other things. This has become something that at the price point, this is under $100. That seems like a good tool to add to your arsenal of tools. The only thing that I would recommend is get one with the little beep boop tip here that you could actually articulate. That has become handy, especially for the job we're about to do. That's very handy to have. And for friends of the channel, stick around to the end. I have a roundup of several items, current task items that we've been dealing with on the Jeep. Door seals. I actually had to do an evap fix. I'll run you through what I ended up doing on that thing. Had to drop the gas tank out. So got some of those things. Stay to the end if you want to see and catch up on some of that stuff. But for now, let's get all Raiders of the Lost Ark and start exploring the intake and see how our Dorman oil cooler is holding up. We'll start with getting the beauty cover off. All right, let's go in. So we'll go driver's side first. And you can see, this is why I like the articulation of the end here, so you can actually tilt up and down. So let's go under and see if we have good or bad news. Oh, hey, look. It's dirty as can be, which is interesting for a year. And the funny thing is I know how spotless this was when I put this back together, and to see this is like, how? So the good news is that this was full of oil right here. This is the intake galley, and it was full of oil when the initial oil cooler housing failed. And so we are looking really good there. And the other problem is that this was also full of oil after the immediate startup of my Amazon purchased Dorman housing. So we are already, I'm feeling better. This is me breathing a sigh of relief. I just wish I had more confidence in this part. So we're gonna try to sneak on past here to get to the back, towards the rear of the intake manifold, and see what's going on back here. So this little bit of oil that you see here happened immediately after startup of the very second time of the installation of the current housing. And this is why I can't recommend this. And this is why I recommend the Nishimoto or go with the stock Mopar oil filter housing, is that I just don't get where this came from. If just one of the seals, until it sealed, kind of popped a little bit and let a little bit of oil out, that's all I can think of, but it's definitely not overfilling and leaking, and it's not continually leaking. So that's good. But the fact that it's there is still unnerving, and it's a part that's just deep enough in there that I don't want to have to worry about it. I just want to think that it's solved. So it's mucky under there, but the important bits seem to be not currently leaking. We have a year's worth and 4,000 miles worth of running. That looks like it is not continually leaking. It is solved at the moment. So is it ideal? And this is why I don't recommend this particular housing. No, but thumbs up to commence oil change. All right, time to pull the cap off, and that is a 15/16 socket will do there. And as you can see, it takes hardly anything when you tighten that the correct amount, which is a few Newton meters. It's not much at all. You should do that with your plastic housing, especially. These aluminum housings are extra tough. But the thing to remember is that this O-ring does all the sealing, so you don't have to really tighten that all that tight. Now you can see that I do like on the Dorman unit that has the actual warning here. Since this is a 2013 Jeep, you no longer use the 2013 oil filter. You have to use the 2014 and up filter that has this. I think this is the oil bypass feature here. Someone can correct me in the comments if I'm wrong here, but 2013 and before didn't have this built in. It just was a clip-in style. So we'll go ahead and relieve this filter of its duty. I said duty. We'll do a quick check in here to see if there's anything of note or gnarly looking. It looks just fine. Go ahead and take this out of here. You are retired. Everything looks fine in there. We'll pull this O-ring off since we're going to put a new one on that comes with our new filter. That O-ring can get retired. Doing a quick visual down inside there. Everything looks good, fine. And you'll notice I bought an actual Mopar oil filter this time. A little gun shy on aftermarket stuff at the moment. I'm on a losing streak for real. I bought aftermarket door seals and they're junk, and aftermarket, the Dorman oil filter housing, not super stoked on that. So I figured that's just a few bucks. I'm gonna get the Mopar oil filter. Little tip I use is I just pour a little bit of oil into the cap of the jug. Then I can keep that handy to lube up all of our O-rings. Here's another quick tip. When you're putting this O-ring on, it goes into this very designated groove right here, not right at the lip, right here in its own groove and not down here where the threads are. Now we'll go ahead and get our new oil filter cartridge plugged in place there. We'll do the same thing, a little bit of oil on this O-ring right here, because that's the one that will seal down inside there, and in it goes. And that should just spin on effortlessly all the way down. Now we can take our wrench and tighten this back down. And you can see that as soon as it snugs down right there, look, I just have one hand on here, and that's it. That's all that has to go. The O-ring does all of the sealing here. All right, top's done. I'll meet you downstairs and we'll get the drain plug back in it. Clean as we go. Time to put some fresh 5W20 in. I've been using the Pennzoil here for a little bit. The only reason I'm using it right now is I got it on sale at, I got some points at my local auto parts store, and I saw Project Farm did a video a couple years ago that it does fine. It's one of the better oils. It's not the best, but it's pretty good. So we're just gonna go and put this in. And our Jeep JKs take 5.9 from empty. 5.9 quarts, that is. We're here in America. So we'll put this full container, and this is leftover from, actually I did the Range Rover and this with the same brand and this. So now I know I could just go, all I actually got to do, it's at 3, I've got to go to 2 here, and that'll give me 1 quart, or the 0.9 that I need. We're good to go. Let's get this buttoned up. The oil is so clear I can barely see it on the dipstick. Now, out of sheer abundance of caution, I'll do a wide open throttle crank over, and that's literally, I've shown this video before, where you put your foot flat on the floor on the gas and start it, and the engine won't start, it just turns over. So I'll do that just for a few seconds. It's just peace of mind. Here we go, and then I'll just crank it. And you hear that? There was no rattle, there was no, there's just no drama when you do that. It's peace of mind. Do you have to do that? No, for sure not. Everything looks good. No lights, no sounds. And after the catastrophe, I can't help but look underneath to see if there's just a gusher of oil like that one time. All it takes is one time. We are fully solid. The oil changes, check that off the list. All right, oil change handled. And we did some recon down inside the intake galley, and it's okay in there. I want more peace of mind on a part down in there, and that's why I still can't recommend that particular part. Go with stock, the Mishimoto. So that's why I recommend that. It's on, I put that link in the Amazon store under Jeep maintenance. So that's why that's there. Still can't recommend this one, but we're okay. So that feels good. Now, let's talk about the first item on the to-do list here. The cold air intake I have was an early production release of the Flowmaster Delta Force before Flowmaster got bought by Holley, and they were gonna carb certify these, but I got this before that happened. And then once I got bought by Holley, they decided not to continue with this. So this is technically illegal here in California. And that's the first issue, is that it's now no longer, that it's not legal here in California, and I don't have that guy anymore. So I'm gonna have to, when I smog it this year, it's gonna have to pass the visual inspection if I don't get a guy that's cool. Plus, I went with the paper element because I was having problems with my K&N oiled element in the stock housing, causing a little bit of gunk. And there's a couple of reasons for that, but the paper I was very happy with. Now over the years, you can wash this and brush it and clean it, but it just eventually breaks down. I think it's been 4 or 5 years. So this has done its job, it's past its prime. So what I went and did is I went on Amazon and just found a 6-inch, because this is a 6-inch opening here. It's harder to find that than you'd think. And it was cheap, it was 19 bucks. And I thought, okay, well, that'll at least keep me in the mix until I figure out what to do with this thing when the smog rolls around. But what I didn't realize is that these cheap air filters, they are awful. I noticed a dramatic decrease in performance by bolting that air filter on. The Jeep feels like it's being strangulated. There is a serious, in my butt dyno, which is when you're sitting in the seat, I feel a loss of power. And it is literally since I bolted that on. So this is awful. And I am going to go back to the stock air box with my K&N filter. I'm gonna rinse it good, lightly oil it, that's the key. I had been over oiling it. So I'm gonna do a video on that, and we'll actually do some data to show and see if we can see any difference in that. I did my recent run in Death Valley with this thing, and I blew it out after running behind my buddy Mike in the dirt, and it seems okay. We'll be curious when we pull this thing off if it did its job. I haven't looked at the throttle body if it actually did some good filtration, but it blew out fine and it looks fine, but it is junk. Next up, let's talk door seals. These are $160 worth of aftermarket door seals that I did a video on the installation of, and I ripped them back off. I hate those things. Look at how much nicer I put the stock ones back on, and well, look at, that's how the door should shut. I had to slam it with those things, and some commenters even said, oh, they break in or they wear in over time. Well, it's been a month or two and they never got any easier to shut. They were awful and they still leaked. So what's the point of keeping them? They drove me nuts. So now I have a nice normal shutting door. And the real problem here, I want to show you what I did, the solution that I did here was I used some of the weather strip adhesive that I showed you guys when I did the header panel install, which by the way, the header install is great. And I actually opened and closed the Sunrider and no new marks on the header thing. So this was a total success, finally got one. But back up here, you can see where I went ahead and used some of this weather strip adhesive and I kind of molded and mended this tear in this thing. So that way it's not collapsing in on itself. And when I press it, you can kind of tell that it holds together. And that just feels way better at the moment until I can afford to spend $150 per door to put new ones on. Plus the other thing is that with the new seals, I ended up having leaking here, which was it never did before. So I was like, this is ridiculous. So I was able to pull all the foam tape off that I put here that I didn't need with this one. I only had a little bit of a leak here, which I've now remedied with a little bit of glue. But this is the foam tape that still works on the driver's door. So it's just this thin. You get this at Home Depot or Lowe's. It's like a 1/8 inch adhesive foam tape. This is the stuff that I recommend you use, and you can put that on the driver's door. I put a little bit on the front here, and that really seemed to help things out on that side. That seemed to solve all that, and now I have doors that still function like they should and still seal. I still want to refresh these though. So there's a few things on the list that have bumped up past this, since especially now this side is completely good with just a little bit of an impromptu repair, and I have this again. Oh, so much nicer to just shut your door like a normal person and not having to go, ugh. I thought I was gonna be cool with it. I was not cool with it. So, door seals. All right, this little project you see here, I thought was gonna spin into something really awful, but it turned out to be a pretty straightforward fix. I got an evap problem. So that's in the gas tank fume system, the evap system there. And I couldn't put gas in it. The pump kept clicking, and then it threw a evap leak code. I got up underneath there and found the small vent fitting at the top of the tank had broken off. There are a ton of videos of people fixing that. So my version of doing that was I dropped the tank out. I used my actual transmission jack here. That's why this thing's out on the floor right now. And that helped solo get that out because I have the metal cloak armor on there. And so it was pretty hefty. I had drained the gas. I had driven the gas out to right when it was showing reserve capacity. Once I got the tank out, I just saw so much dirt. So I had to pull all the layers apart to clean the years of rocks and sand. And how does dirt and rocks get on top of your gas tank? I'm boggled by that. Either that must be good times is what that means. So once I got all that out, I've seen some the repairs online. I saw people use a roll pin, like go to Home Depot and get like a 3/16 inch roll pin. I thought that was fine, but my repair was to go down to Napa and buy just a little 8-inch piece of 3/16 inch brake line, cut the flare off the end, and that's why you see these little nuts loose here. And I just made myself a little stint about this long that will go inside there instead of the dowel pin. This is a nice solid piece, and I had to file it down pretty good to fit inside there. I didn't want to drill the plastic out, but after a little bit of massaging that fit in there, I used a little 5-minute epoxy to seal all that stuff up, let it dry overnight, and put it all back together, and the thing seems to be holding great. So tank went back in, everything seems good there. That's a win, small win, yay, we'll take those. And with that, I want to thank you guys for making it this far in the video. I definitely want to thank you new channel members. Oh my gosh, this is freaking me out how this is going so well. I appreciate you very much. And if you'd like to help support the channel, go get yourself a pair of Bones gloves off of the Amazon store. I'll put links to all of the stuff in the description as usual. And you know, I forgot to wear them today. The oil changes on these things are so ridiculously easy. I meant to wear them and I just forgot because I was in a hurry shooting stuff. So thank you guys so much for watching, and until next time, lots coming up, so please enjoy your drive.